Welcome to Vibrational Revelations. My name is Elena.
My name is Alejandro.
And we're so grateful that you have joined us here today. For those of you that are brand new, please make sure that you subscribe to our YouTube channel. And also, as a reminder, every single week, Alejandro and I meet with our Vibrational Revelations membership community. We have over 107 episodes recorded as of today. And we deeply appreciate your curiosity and your desire to explore the nature of our reality together with us. Today's episode, we're going to explore, this will be fascinating, the top 6 players on Wall Street. And we're going to begin with Warren Buffett. Warren Buffett is the founder of Berkshire Hathaway, and the net worth is $101.4 billion. So let's dive into Warren Buffett. He incarnated at the frequency of 310, which is the frequency of willingness. He was born at the frequency of fear, 100, and his overall frequency as of today is 250, which is neutrality. He views health through the lens of fear, 100, finances he views through the lens of 600, peace. And it's interesting, a while back, Alejandro and I checked the frequency of money, right? And remember that it's a currency, but it's actually a tool, right? And the frequency of money we measured was 600. So Warren Buffett has finances at the same frequency. Creativity is all about what inspires you. And when you feel inspired, how do you take action? In the case of Warren Buffett, it's a frequency of 400, which is reason. So he has a very creative mind. Relationships he views through the lens of pride, 175. Personal growth, 250, neutrality. Philanthropy, the art of sharing and giving, he views through the lens of 250, neutrality. Intuition has to do with when you receive information and information comes to you, what lens or what frequency or emotion gets activated. And in his case, overall frequency for intuition is 250. Now, we also break down intuition into 4 aspects: clairaudience, 250, neutrality; clairsentience, 250, neutrality; clairvoyance, 250, neutrality. And his strong point of intuition is claircognizance. He has an enlightened relationship with that aspect, and it's a frequency of 800. So claircognizance is your gut feeling, your inner knowing. And I'm sure combining that with his creative mind and finances, this peaceful flow frequency, no wonder he's so successful in his case. Now we look at 4 aspects of intelligence, again, through the lens of consciousness or through the lens of emotions. The IQ is 250, neutrality, EQ, the emotional intelligence is 50, apathy, so shut down. SQ, the social quotient, which is your level of magnetism, and also how do you do in large networks. And for him, it's 250, neutrality. Again, this frequency of 250, you'll see repeating itself. It's a quiet, I would say, common frequency for people who own their own companies. And also it's a frequency of observation. AQ, his level of adversity, right? What lens gets activated when he is faced with challenging situations? And for Warren Buffett, it's a frequency of 200, courage. So he courageously faces adversity. Now we're going to go into percentages, right? Because you can be experiencing all kinds of emotions, but it gives you, the percentages give you an insight of where does that person stand. So he enjoys his role as Warren Buffett in this reality, 81%. He's in his ego. Ego is thought. Remember that is 98%. And out of that, 79% is the superior ego. In the now, 81%. Integrity, which is how loyal and faithful he is to his core values and beliefs, 97%. Now we break down the integrity into integrity to self, 100%, and his integrity to others is 90%.
To self as being the persona.
To the
right?
persona.
Because some spiritual teachers call self the what others call the inner self.
That's true. To the personality self. Self-awareness, 96%. So he's pretty aware. He's mastered himself at this 250 frequency. So he's quite aware of his inner and outer world. His clarity is 96%. And he's 100% aligned with his divine and personal purpose. His compassion is at 84%, empathy, 86%, energy purity, which energy purity has a lot to do with how much does that person embody their overall frequency. And in his case, it's a frequency of 250. So he embodies that frequency with energy purity of 94%. And dimensions, of course, we measure dimensions. And in his case, he is, fifth dimension has to do with the frequency of 500 and also the frequency of experiencing less resistance and the experience of flow state. So 20% of the time, he is experiencing the fifth dimension.
Mm-hmm.
All right, now we go into the next person.
More than likely when doing things related to money more often.
Right? The next person is Steven Schwarzman. Steven Schwarzman. And the last name is spelled Schwarzman. Now, he's a founder of
Blackstone,
and the value is $37.5 billion.
Well, the money, the amount of money that they manage.
They manage. Okay. Incarnated at the frequency of 50, born at the frequency of 50, and overall frequency as of today is 50. Health, he views through the lens of 50. Again, 50 is the frequency of apathy. Finances, Steven views through the lens of 400, which is reason. So again, this analytical frequency for finances. Creativity, 50. Relationships, 50. Personal growth, 50. Philanthropy, the art of sharing and giving, is 30, which is guilt. Intuition, 50. And all four aspects of intuition are also 50. Clairaudience, clairsentience, clairvoyance, and claircognizance. Now, the IQ is 250. 250 is neutrality. EQ, 50. SQ, social quotient, 50. And AQ, 50. Fascinating. He enjoys his role 97%. He's in his ego 100%. And out of that, 100% is the superior ego. He's in the now 98%. In his integrity, 100%. Integrity to his persona self, as Alejandro just clarified, 100%. And integrity to others, 82%. Self-awareness, 98%. So he's pretty aware. Clarity, 98%. And he's 100% aligned with his divine and personal purpose. Compassion, 70%. Empathy, 71%. Energy purity, 100%. So that means that he's embodying this 50 frequency at 100%. He came here as a shadow player, and he's playing his role from a divine lens, from a divine perspective, absolutely 100%. So it's a great, great example that everyone plays an important role in this reality. The next on the list is James Simmons. James Simmons manages or is a creator of Renaissance technologies. I believe we read somewhere that he also is mathematician. He's a mathematician, right?
She's some genius in
mathematics, geometry, and I think he played role in the string theory and quantum physics too. So fascinating. After this reading, I definitely want to explore more of his work. So James Harris Simmons, incarnated at the frequency of 250, which is the frequency of neutrality, born at the frequency of 75, which is grief. And his overall frequency is 400, reason. So he's been able to transcend, as you can see, his birth and incarnation frequency into this higher frequency of 400, which is the frequency of a lot of the scientists, right? And a lot of the inventors, investigators. So he has a very, very high frequency for managing big companies and big projects. Health, he views through the lens of 250, neutrality. Finances, 600, peace, the same frequency as Warren Buffett in finances. Creativity. So here's the difference. He has enlightened frequency with his creativity, and that frequency is 700. Relationships, he views through the lens of 75, grief. Personal growth, 400. Philanthropy, the art of sharing and giving, 250. And his intuition is at 500, love. Clairaudience, 400, reason. Clairsentience, 500, which is love. Clairvoyance, 700, enlightened relationship with clairvoyance. And claircognizance, he also has an enlightened relationship there at 700. IQ for James Simmons is 400, frequency of reason. EQ, the emotional intelligence, is 200, frequency of courage. SQ, what happens in social settings, and it's a frequency of fear that gets activated, 100. And adversity quotient, when he's faced with challenging situations, what frequency gets activated, or the lens through which he perceives that area of his life, and it's a frequency of 50, apathy. So he shuts down in challenging, adverse situations. He enjoys his role 65% of the time. He's in his ego 98%, and out of that, 66% superior. He's in the now 74%. Integrity, 100%. Integrity to persona self, 100%. Integrity to others, 98%. So he has a pretty high integrity combined with that frequency. Self-awareness, 100%. Clarity, 100%. He is 100% aligned with his divine and personal purpose. Compassion, 83%. Empathy, 84%. Perhaps it's also linked to the EQ, or I would say adversity quotient, right? And the relationships that unprocessed grief. Energy purity, 100%. So he's embodying that 400 frequency at 100%. And 23% of the time, he's experiencing fifth dimension. All right.
Mm-hmm.
Next on the list, Raymond.
Raymond Dalio, Bridgewater Associates, have under their belt $20 billion.
Yeah.
Raymond's incarnation frequency, or in utero, is 200, the level of courage. Was born at the frequency of 100, the level of fear. And his overall frequency is 125, which is the level of desire, unfulfilled desire. He views health through the lens of fear at 100. Finances, 125, level of desire. Creativity, 400, level of reason, high intellect. Relationships, 125. Personal growth, 125. Philanthropy, 125. Intuition, 50, level of apathy. And under intuition, we have clairaudience at 50, clairsentience 50, clairvoyance 50, and claircognizance 50. Mm-hmm. Now, under the intelligence aspect, we have IQ at 400, EQ at 50, SQ 125, and AQ at 50. So he has established a better relationship with his intellect, right? Mm-hmm. Now we go into percentages. In the joy is at 66%. This is as of how much fun he's having playing the role of Raymond in this reality. In the ego, how much he pays attention to thought is at 100%. And the type of thought that he entertains the most is the superior, the superior version of the ego at 100%. In the now, how much time he spends in the now, in the present moment, 57%. Integrity, how loyal and faithful he is to his own truth, his core values and beliefs, 78%, and integrity to self, 94%, integrity to others, 75%. Self-awareness, 85%, clarity, 93%, alignment with divine purpose, 93%, and alignment with divine purpose, or divine purpose, we compare that to self-realization. Alignment with personal purpose, we compare that to self-actualization. He is at 100%. Compassion, 75%. Empathy, 78%. Energy purity, 63%. This is how well he's embodying the current frequency of 125, right? Mm. And because he incarnated at the frequency of 200 and he's currently vibrating below 200, that impacts his level of joy, right? And impacts his alignment with divine purpose.
And also in the now.
And yes, it has to do within the now, without a doubt, right? I mean, yes. Impacts his overall chart, of course, but the main numbers are, we'll say the most notorious numbers, or important numbers for most people. One of them is the alignment with divine purpose, right? And the level of joy, of course, as we know, joy is the purpose of life, right? Now, when it comes to dimensions, well, we didn't measure that because he's below 200. We only do that for those that vibrate at 200 or above 200.
Yes. All right. Next on the list.
Carl. How you pronounce his last name? Icahn? Carl Cillian Icahn. The last name spells I-C-A-H-N. Yes. He incarnated at the frequency of 250.
How much money does he manage?
Oh, yes.
We need
Would
to know
you
that.
like to know?
Everybody wants to know.
16.3 billion. Thank you for the reminder. He incarnated at the frequency of 250, level of neutrality, and was born at the frequency of 50, level of apathy. His current overall frequency, or the level of consciousness that he's experiencing, is the level of neutrality at 250. Now, we know that for him doesn't mean that he has hit the ceiling, right? As they often use that term when it comes to trading. 250 is not his ceiling, even though he incarnated at 250 and he's vibrating at 250 doesn't mean that he has reached his ceiling. He definitely can reach higher, much higher
just
levels,
like any human being.
Any other human being.
That's right. We're not limited by the numbers.
Exactly, by the number that we incarnate at. When it comes to the aspect of health, he views health through the lens of fear at 100. Finances, 600, the level of peace.
That's
the same as Warren Buffett.
And
Yes. Creativity, 400. Relationships, 250. Personal growth, 200. Philanthropy, 250. Intuition, 250. And within intuition, we have clairaudience at 200, level of courage. Clairsentience at 100, level of fear. Clairvoyance at 400, level of reason. And claircognizance, when it comes to the inner knowing, is at 500. Yes? So in these numbers, that's just an indication as to what filter gets activated to process the information that is coming through, right? Intuitively. Doesn't mean how psychic the person is or not. Now, under the intelligence aspect, we have IQ at 400, EQ 50, SQ 200, and AQ 50. this is very clear that he relies more on his intellect than his emotional intelligence, right?
Yes.
In the joy, 80%. In the ego, 95%. And 86% of that is the superior version of the ego. In the now, 87%. Integrity, 98%. And 100% of that is the integrity to self is 100%. Integrity to others, 98%. Self-awareness, 97%. Clarity, 100%. Alignment with divine purpose and personal purpose at 100%. Compassion, 94%. Empathy, 95%. Energy purity, 97%. And he's experiencing the fifth dimension 14% of the time.
I was going to say, I find it fascinating, right? How many have the AQ shut down to 50, right? And most, I think almost everyone today that we're revealing has the superior ego activated. But it's also fascinating because sometimes you've heard us talk that the ones in the superior ego with low frequency are exhibiting narcissistic tendency. In some of the cases that we're revealing to you today, that might not necessarily apply because they have higher frequencies in their chart.
Because they have higher numbers under the compassion category.
Right, the compassion. Right, exactly.
When they have low compassion numbers, and then they are in the superior.
And low in the relationships.
And low in the relationships, that more than likely have narcissistic tendencies, at least, if not they are full-blown narcissists, right?
Yes. But
that
in these
doesn't
cases,
seem the case with,
no.
With Raymond. It is? Yeah. I mean, Carl. I'm sorry. And now, next is Steve Cohen.
Steven Cohen.
Steven Cohen. It is 0.72 Asset Management, the name of the firm. And they manage up to $16 billion. So Steven incarnated at the frequency of 310, which is the level of willingness. Yes. Was born at the frequency of 100, level of fear. And his overall frequency, or the level of consciousness that he's experiencing at the moment, is 175, the level of pride. Health. He views health through the lens of apathy at 50. Finances, 600, level of peace.
Pattern, right? Emerging.
Creativity, 400. They all have also good
Similar,
numbers in the creativity aspect. Relationships, 175, level of pride. Personal growth, 200, level of courage. Philanthropy, 50, level of apathy. To emotional disconnect when it comes to sharing money, time, energy, right? Not only towards others, but towards himself too. No? Intuition, 175, which is the level of pride. And within intuition, we have clairaudience at 100, clairsentience at 50, clairvoyance at 200, and claircognizance at 175. Under the intelligence aspect, we have IQ at 400, EQ at 50, SQ at 175, and AQ at 50.
There's that AQ and EQ. There's definitely
right.
correlation between most
under
of them.
EQ, but the high number under IQ, right?
Yeah, relying on intellect versus the emotional intelligence.
I guess that's how they make sound decisions. They disconnect from the emotions and they see their target very clearly, right? And relying on data to come up with the right answer. Let's see. On data more on the intellect and less on the intelligence, right? Factor. So now, in the joy is 82%. In the ego, 100%. And 100% of that is the superior version of the ego. In the now, 85%. Integrity, 98%. Integrity to self, 100%. And integrity to others, 86%. Self-awareness, 94%. Clarity, 95%. Alignment with divine purpose, 93%. And alignment with personal purpose, 100%. Compassion, 87%. Empathy, 94%. Energy purity, 66%. We didn't measure how much time he's experienced in the fifth dimension. For obvious reasons, his overall frequency is below 200, right?
Yes.
And he could still experience, spend some time experiencing the fifth dimension, but we have excluded that for those that vibrate below 200.
Yes. All right. Well, thank you so much. And that concludes today's episode. And we look forward to seeing you very soon. So stay tuned for more upcoming episodes.
Yes, thank you. And feel free to make your suggestions as well. We take those into consideration. We take them seriously. Thank you so much. Have a wonderful day.